Having trained at the Webber Douglas School of Dramatic Art, this week's guest's first professional role was the American companion Peri in Doctor Who, a part she played for 3 years, but that's just the beginning of her many talents. She has also made guest appearances in Blackadder's Christmas Carol, Casualty, Doctors, Holby City, and 3 series of The Biz, as well as numerous appearances on the stage. It's Nicola Bryant.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nicola, thank you ever so much for coming all the way to Slough today to see us and be part of the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Do you have a good journey?
Yes, actually, it was fairly simple.
Good.
So, yes.
Now, one of the earliest guests we had on the podcast was one of your Doctor Who successors, Miss Sophie Aldred, whose Anderson fandom is reasonably well known. But we gather that you, too, were also watching quite a few Anderson shows as a little girl.
I think all.
All?
I think all.
That's quite a claim to make.
Unless I've missed one.
Yes.
But I think there is one that I didn't catch, which, when I was looking through them all, I was thinking, oh, I don't remember seeing that. And I think, I know of Joe 90, but then there was another one, I think, before or after that I didn't
Yes,
catch.
even more obscure.
Yes.
Okay, well, you sound quite confident on the whole identifying these shows front. So we're going to open with a little game we like to play called Super Identification.
Right.
This is where we show you, yes indeed, brief clips of all 18 Gerry Anderson shows.
Okay, I don't have 18.
They go past very quickly, but when you know them, you can shout out what they are, and we will keep score on a little cardboard figure of you.
Dear.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
So, if you are ready, we will run Super Identification and see how well you do.
Up for this. That's not, is it? Was that?
It might be.
Sorry. Am I supposed to keep up with this? No, I don't know.
Shout out what you think they are.
Okay, well that's our Terror Hawks, isn't it? No? Oh gosh, I'm not doing very well here.
I wish I was a spaceman. Stand by for action.
Oh, you know that one's Thunderbird. No, that's Stingray. There we go. Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds.
Yes. I got 2 so far or something. Captain Scarlet.
Yep.
Joe 90.
Yep.
Now, that was Father something, but we didn't have that one in my area. Okay, so now that was UFO, and it's the Pretenders, and that's UFO.
This is an emergency.
Okay, so then... No, that one. Was that...
You just want it to stop now, don't you?
I just want to watch them. No, I can't do this.
No?
I'm hopeless. I can't work that fast.
Oh.
What, that was useless. What did I get, like 3 or something?
I make it 5 there.
Okay.
Yes, there were a couple that I think you knew,
I
but
wasn't
just
sure
couldn't
whether
get
that was
the word out
is
in
that
time.
going into another one? Or no, I should have looked at the numbers.
So I'm going to officially
rubbish.
mark you as 5.
That's about my age.
If you're happy with that, yes indeed.
That'll do.
And we shall add you to our little roster of...
Which is probably at the bottom.
Here. No, you're not.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, now, when you were watching these shows when you were younger, which ones specifically do you remember, regardless of getting the titles there?
The first that I remember was Stingray, and I think if I'm getting these in the correct chronological order. And I'm thinking so what was the year of Stingray? Can you tell me that?
This is the 60th anniversary year, so it's 64.
It's 64.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So I'm starting to worry about myself, thinking about the thoughts I had as a 4-year-old while watching this show.
Oh, dear.
Yes, because I think what I can trace is that I basically fell in love with most of the leading men in the Gerry Anderson series.
Right.
Yes, exactly. I'm thinking four's a bit young, but
puppets.
hey, obviously.
These are puppets, yes?
The puppets.
The puppets,
the
okay,
puppets,
right.
Yes, I know. I am certifiable.
I wasn't sure whether to ask you about this, but yes, since you brought it up.
Well, it was geared to that.
Yeah.
I think, in so many ways.
They were these dashing, handsome, heroic
They were.
leads. Yes.
And I expected life to be like Gerry Anderson world. And, sometimes it's been like that, and often it's been rather disappointing.
Yes, we find a lot of people say that. It's a great shame, unfortunately. So did watching shows like Stingray as a kid generate an interest in sci-fi for you?
Yes, I think it did. I mean, sci-fi was so important, I think, at that time. My father read a lot of sci-fi. And so as I got older, I was picking up his books. My father would watch all these programs with us. My father would get in the car and he would do Parker's voice, and I would be Lady Penelope. And I'd go, "Home, Parker."
Wow.
"Yes, my lady." And he'd drive me home, and that would be from school or somewhere, and that was how we did. And if things were good, it was FAB and, and SIG, and these things were said all the time as a matter of course.
So we definitely have a core memory there of Stingray and Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. And then you say from Joe 90, and the Secret Service was the one with Stanley Unwin.
Ah, right, yes.
They weren't played in as many regions.
Yes.
Which may account for the fact that you don't have particularly strong memories, as indeed a lot of people don't. I think the Secret Service was only played in 3 regions, so it didn't generate as big an interest as the others. Was it something that you sort of carried with you beyond childhood very far, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could still sing most of the theme tunes. Don't
We won't
test
ask
me.
you to. No.
But yes, I think it stays with you. It's the way that Doctor Who fans talk to me as well, in that it's kind of there's a little core memory of a really good and happy and wholesome part of your childhood, which was full of your own imagination and the imagination that was expanded by science fiction.
Well, that's something that I think Tom Baker speaks quite eloquently about, of meeting people as adults who were little kids when they watched him and the feelings that it stirs up in them. You mentioned Doctor Who there, so I think it's about time that we take a look at a vintage episode of Doctor Who that you were in from 1986.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
if you're comfortable with that.
That's fine, yes. Oh, similar weather.
Yes.
The exhilarating smell of a freshly laundered forest. Can't beat it.
And the twittering of tiny birds, and the rustle of small mammals as they forage for food in the undergrowth.
Exactly.
Well, you're better hearing than me. There aren't any birds. Listen.
I wondered when you'd notice.
None of this makes any sense. Any soul left after the visitation of a fireball would be sterile.
Well done.
Don't patronize me, Doctor. I knew from the start this amount of growth wasn't possible.
I also knew that as a student of botany, you'd soon realize the truth without any prompting from me.
Maybe. Is there any intelligent life here?
Well, apart from me, you mean? Don't know. Should find out.
The Doctor and Perry there in happier times before Thoros Beta. So I'm interested, obviously Perry was, I suppose, offered to you as she is going to be an American companion. Was there any sense of, having watched these shows where you have a fair amount of Canadian and Australian actors doing American accents, but you also have the likes of David Graham in Thunderbirds doing, a British actor doing American accents.
Yeah.
Was there anything you took from the likes of Thunderbirds in terms of the American voice artists and the sound when it came to Perry?
Well, it's there is a great correlation there, isn't there? Because you have got your American voices, like Shane and Matt, but then you've also got the British actors doing the voices as well. And I had sort of grown up with those sounds. So when people say, was an American difficult? I think, no, because that was my childhood, listening to those voices.
Yeah.
And then I'd also married an American, and I actually basically had stuck with American and Canadians because I was just trying to recreate the Gerry Anderson world. And so it was totally a tune that my ear was used to listening to.
We have here a Space 1999 lunchbox with some questions from our loyal Podsteron listeners. How about you dig out a couple there for yourself.
Okay.
And
I've
see what
gone
you make
for
of
a
those. We've had quite
big
a lot
long
of
one
questions
here.
for you. Oh, that looks like quite a long one.
Oh, so this is from, I don't know if I'm going to say the name right, Anthony Zetzner. I hope I've said that name correctly, Anthony. What's it like having your own Perry action figure and being a pop culture icon? If you could have chosen Perry's attire, what would you have preferred she had worn? Also, your character Perry is a botanist. If you were to have a flower named after you, what would it look like?
There's several questions in one there.
Yes, that's a busy piece of paper.
Yes.
It's so large. Right, well, having an action figure, well, that's a bit surreal, isn't
You've
it?
got several action figures, haven't you?
Surreal.
Yeah.
I like that Colin told me, that all of his dolls are sort of lined up in his toilet.
Of
And
course,
people
best place
put
to
them
keep
into
them, yeah.
various positions. I've now got some in my cloakroom as
Right.
well. But mostly because I had young stepsons, I would let them play with the dolls. And I remember my youngest stepson.
It's not
looking
always a
at-
good idea, is it?
Well,
No.
And so my youngest, Toby, said to me when he looked at one of them, I think it was the Vengeance on Varos one in the blue shorts, whatever, and he went, "That's not your bottom." I wasn't quite sure whether mine was better or worse than the dolls, but
Well,
that was his opinion. I said, "I don't think those are my knees either, because they've got great big bolts kind
Yes,
of going
indeed.
through them." So, yes, it's surreal.
it is very surreal, yes.
Yes.
I'm not sure where we go from there. I suspect back to the piece of paper for the other questions.
If I could have chosen Perry's attire, what would you have preferred she had worn? Well, here I am today. We are in the month of February. I'm wearing a wool polo neck, a thermal vest underneath this, very sensible flat shoes, thick socks and leggings. Any of that put
So
together.
sensible and practical,
Sensible,
basically,
practical,
yes.
comfortable,
Yes.
warm.
How was that costume that we saw in that clip just there compared to some of the others? Because that, as you said, that was quite a
That looks
cold-looking
fine,
day.
but it's absolutely rubbish. Because it's a cotton jacket made out of something about as thick as a paper napkin. There's no lining. And then there's a sort of silk top. No lining and not a lot of room. Just squeezed, I think, a thermal vest on underneath that. And then very, very, very thin cotton trousers, which had elastic to go under my foot so that I could wear like a pop sock. Like a fake tight with a pair of shoes. No. Thick socks, boots, stuff for woolly trousers, thermals.
Sensible
Any of
and
these
practical.
things would have
That's
been
what we need,
appreciated.
yeah.
A pair of gloves, a scarf, a hat,
Anything to avoid hypothermia and
frostbite,
similar conditions.
and other
yes.
such things.
Oh dear. Well, let's dig back into the tin. We'll have. Oh,
I
did
think
you
I didn't
get all
answer
of
the
those?
last question,
One,
which is
yes, the flower.
if a flower, I would be a gerbena.
Right.
That's the kind
Why
of
is
flower
that?
I would like. It's like a daisy, but a very nice. It's like a giant daisy.
Oh,
Perhaps like a science fiction version of a small daisy.
right.
I'll leave that thought with you. Right.
Take yourself one more there. We'll
Okay.
come back to the rest of these in a bit.
Okay, what have we got here? Do you enjoy coming back for the 60th anniversary celebration starring in the Tales from the TARDIS? I think that's more did. But I did. Yes, I
Yes.
did.
It was a
Absolutely,
lovely
I
little
did.
scene, wasn't it?
And it
Yes.
was great to be inside another TARDIS.
Yeah. With Colin
And-
again.
Yes, with Colin. And that actual keyboard that we used in our version of Tales of the TARDIS is in the current TARDIS.
Oh, right.
So it was one of those things that when I went to visit the TARDIS, which we were privileged to do,
Was that after you shot the tails
Yes.
thing? Right.
I then saw, oh my goodness, we actually have a piece of that TARDIS. So it's like all the TARDIS, the TARDI, had a piece in the little TARDIS that we were in,
Well, that's
the memory
fantastic.
TARDIS. So it was very sweet.
So you've been on the new TARDIS set. Do you get to go on all the new TARDIS sets every time there's a new one?
I
or
don't
is it-
know.
No.
I'm going to try for that now.
Yes, I think you should. Yes. Well, you mentioned Matt.
Yes.
Which, of course, Matt Zimmerman.
Matt Zimmerman.
The voice of Alan Tracy
Yes.
from Thunderbirds. I would imagine, having been on the convention circuit for several decades at this point. You encountered a lot of the voice actors from Thunderbirds and other Anderson shows. Did you build up any special relationships with Matt and others?
I got to know Shane from the conventions, but I had worked with Matt on several corporates that we'd done together. So I would be playing an American in a corporate, and then Matt would be another American in a corporate. So, and I was in love, in that very fickle way, with both Scott and Virgil. So
and Virgil, but not Alan.
Not Alan. No, I was definitely not in love with them.
Oh, well.
No, sorry about that, Alan. Yes, definitely in love with both of them. And my first husband was called Scott, and I blame that entirely on Thunderbirds.
Of course, yeah.
And yes, so I got to meet them, and we had long and lovely chats about Thunderbirds, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, they always came across as very nice. I saw them several times at conventions.
Really,
I remember one
really
time
lovely.
I was standing by a door at the end of a day, and Shane just happened to be leaving, and he went, "Goodbye, Chris," and I was like, there was no one else around, so he obviously meant me. I didn't even know that I'd registered with him, but apparently I had, and that was the great thing. They always made you feel, as indeed all of the people involved with Doctor Who do, they make you feel like you are, you're very welcome, like you're old friends, essentially, when you go to see them at these signings.
Well, there are some fans that you see again and again and again. They do start to feel like old
friends. Do you
friends.
have anyone in mind?
Yes, exactly.
Yes? Okay. Moving on then. We have another clip to play you here. This is your first Anderson memory.
Oh, yes.
Or earliest Anderson memory. Now, you've sort of hinted at what your first Anderson show was, so it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone watching what we're about to see. But let's have a look anyway.
Okay.
Stand by for action.
Yes! Stingray.
Brings back memories.
We're about to launch Stingray. Stingray, 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 Stingray. Anything can happen in the next half hour.
The opening titles of Stingray.
Perfect, isn't it?
60
It's a
years
little
old this
piece
year.
of perfection.
But it doesn't look it, does it?
No.
It's so obviously the 1960s, but it's also, there's this timeless factor to it that it's never gonna age. So of the three puppet shows that you mostly remember, Stingray, Thunderbirds, and Scarlet, which one is the king?
That's like who's your favourite Doctor?
Yeah. That's probably in the
that's
tin
probably in there
somewhere,
somewhere. But different shows at different ages, because you're growing. So if you think I started at 4 and then 7 and then 9, I'm sort of growing as the shows are growing.
Yeah.
Captain Scarlet is amazing. What I love in every single one of these stories, it's like you're in.
Yes.
Instantly. Anything can happen in the next half hour, and you go, yes, it can, it can. What's it going to be?
A lot of opening title
It's like,
sequences.
It gets you the adrenaline going.
Yeah, a lot of opening title sequences, you see them, and then the programme starts, and the programme is nothing like the opening titles makes you think it will be. That one, that is
This
Stingray
sets you
all
up.
the way through, yeah.
And had there been a skip button, the way you can skip through the beginning, you would never, ever
that's one of
skip through
the worst
any
inventions.
of the titles for
one
these.
of the worst inventions of the 21st century.
There are a couple of ones where you think,
Well,
perhaps,
yeah.
on these shows where you've got, watching the 36th episode.
Oh, yeah.
And if the music isn't as good as that, then you definitely
no,
want to
the
press
Anderson
that.
shows
But
were punching.
I could be watching episode 957 and I would not want to skip that theme tune.
And it's interesting you mention the idea of growing up with the shows, because I think a lot of people find that going from Stingray, which is a lot of the time a bit of sort of knockabout fun, Thunderbirds is more grand
Yes.
adventure, and then you get to Captain Scarlet, which is far darker and often
yes.
quite
so dark,
quite downbeat.
I mean, it's not children's television.
No.
An accusation that was made by, of course, against Doctor Who.
Yes.
But what it means is it's great.
Yeah.
That's what it means. It's
That's what kids
exciting
want to see,
and
yes.
dangerous. And if I think about it now, I mean, literally, you start with this scary voice and a dark alley.
Yeah.
And then someone shoots people and they're all dead and we haven't even got to the titles. It's not started.
No.
And you're like, this is the kind of kids' television I like.
It's very, very brutal, in your face. Yeah, it's not going to pull any punches.
And scary. It's mysterious. We don't know what we're fighting
no,
against.
it's invisible.
I mean, it's just a couple of rings.
yes, that can strike
Which
anyone.
I reconstructed with a torch and plasticine around the torch to try and create the sort of the O shape on the wall. So I could do it to my sister. They're coming for you.
Did it work?
It was a bit rubbish, but we thought it was great, And it's that it was just all imagination and
Yeah.
all immediacy and all danger, but thrilling danger
Yes.
and sci-fi danger,
And
UFO danger.
I think
It's all-
Scarlet has that thing as well that Doctor Who has to a certain extent of you're scared, but you're also not too scared that you want to stop watching, essentially.
And if you
want
are
to keep
scared,
going.
you still you really want to watch.
Yeah.
That's it. You're hooked now. It's like doing those rides, those scary
Yeah.
rides that some people like.
Absolutely,
I don't,
yeah.
they want to go back and do it again.
Right, we've got some more questions in the tin for you, if you dig out one or
Okay.
two more of those. What you got there?
Now that Big Finish are telling new tales from the world of Anderson, is there a character you would like to have a crack at?
Ah,
All of them.
all of them?
I definitely want to be Lady Penelope.
Oh.
I mean, that's...
We do already
Definitely.
have one.
I
yes,
know.
But you could...
I know.
I don't know.
It's so
There might be
cruel.
some way we can make something happen.
What else would I mean, villainous. I like the villains' voices
Yeah.
now. I mean, that feels more attuned to me. I loved the fact that in Captain Scarlet, all the pilots were women.
Yes.
And that there was the French pilot and various accents
Oh,
throughout
yes.
those.
Did that, again, fuel your interest in voice work, or...
Yeah, well, I wasn't thinking in those
No.
terms then. I was just, although, of course, I was imitating everyone,
Yes.
I wasn't thinking about it in terms of my career, because at that point I still very much wanted to be a ballerina. But it was more inspiring to think that the women weren't just the housekeepers.
Yeah.
Or the wives whose dinners got cold because he hasn't come back from his adventure. It was the fact that they are a part of it. And
Yeah.
the first thing that is launched, off they go.
Yeah.
Off go the angels,
Or if International Rescue can't handle it on their own, the boys are in over their heads a bit, we get Lady Penelope in to sort everything out and
Handles
save the day.
British end.
Yes, as they say. We have one more clip, I think, here to play you for this week. This is again from the 1980s. Another character with a particularly distinctive voice.
Oh.
Yes, I'm sure you know who this is.
It is still the season of good cheer, and we have all our Christmas treats. Nuts, turkey, and presents. Oh, and my goddaughter Millicent. Secure the ornaments, Baldric, and so we put all our presents under our little tree. A scarf for me, a pair of gloves, Mr. Baldric, and a hat for me. Millicent, to what do I owe this excellent pleasure?
I just thought I'd pop round, just on the off chance. Well, Christmas is a time traditionally connected with presents.
It is indeed. And look, a lovely hat for my dear goddaughter.
Oh, thanks. Oh, and look, a scarf and a pair of gloves to match. That's not bad, I suppose.
That's jolly good.
I'm sorry I can't stop. I thought perhaps I might come back tomorrow at lunchtime.
Oh, what a splendid idea.
It'll just be little me and my teensy boyfriend. Thanks for all the prezzies.
Why don't you take the flipping tree?
Oh, you are sweet.
Bye! My, what a jolly young girl. Yeah, pity she nicked all the presents.
So a two-part question for that. Where did that laugh come from and where is it now?
Well, to answer the second part first, it's still there.
Yes?
But I don't like using it very often.
No,
I get
that's fine. Quite
requested a great deal. But yes, no, it's still perfectly available.
Fantastic. So how did that all come about?
Well, when I did the audition for the part, they said they were looking to create this sort of very strange, odd character, possibly with a very peculiar laugh. And I think I got the job because I said, well, I collect laughs.
Ah.
And they were like, okay. And I said, well, here's the woman on the train as I was travelling down, because I was working in Chester at the time.
Right.
And I gave them the woman on the train, which was a particularly interesting laugh. I can't remember who she was, but it was one that was just fresh in my mind. And then I said, and this is the laugh that I'm currently using, playing Honey in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And that was Honey's laugh. And then I think that kind of got them intrigued that my ear was attuned to that. And then when we got to the rehearsal, Ben Alton said, I'm looking for something so irritating, so obnoxious, a sort of machine gun, staccato, high-pitched, horrible. And then, because of the way that the BBC rehearsal rooms were set up, we were on the gents' toilet floor.
Ah.
And he literally, the only space where you could go and be quiet was the gents' toilet. So I went into the gents' toilet to find my laugh.
Okay.
So I found it in the gents' toilet.
Right.
And then I went back and gave them, I said, this is your first option. And they went with the first option.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
So they had a choice.
They did. And Secure the Ornaments had not been in the script until they heard my sound. And then from that came those extra 2 lines, because they felt they needed to say something about it after I'd left.
Oh, my goodness. But they were nice to work with, Tony and Rowan,
Everybody was lovely.
Oh, fantastic.
Really lovely.
Let's give you one more question from our listeners here.
Okay. Let's try this one. What have we got?
Ooh.
From Andrew Leyland.
Ah.
What is your favourite breed of dog?
Ah, the main question.
Now, you see, everyone will expect me to say Dachshund.
Yes.
Because I have 2 3/4 Dachshunds, and I do love those. But I think my favourite breed is Rescue.
Ah, yes.
You know, because they are incredible dogs. Harvey's an incredible dog, but I don't think...
So Marnie's a rescue, isn't she?
Yeah, Marnie's a rescue. And I don't think I'm breed-specific in that I think when you rescue a dog, it does so much for your own soul and your own heart, and watching them develop and knowing you've saved a little life is just the best feeling in the world.
It's a wonderful thing to have done, yeah. You've recently been involved with the 60th anniversary celebrations of, what else? Doctor Who. You seemed to be involved in quite a few projects, quite a few TV appearances and documentaries and such. How was the 60th for you?
It was lovely. It was really lovely, apart from feeling very old. A bit like your introduction. 40 years in the business. You go, no,
well, he wrote it. He wrote that. That's Richard's fault.
Pass the blame, pass the blame. It was really, very heartwarming. So many wonderful messages from fans and so many shows interested in celebrating alongside us. You know, all the breakfast TV and special documentaries being made, and the fact that Russell thought that we should do the Tales of the TARDIS, extraordinary.
Yes. Well, oddly enough, that brings us on to our first clip for this week.
Oh.
We have a clip from Tales from the TARDIS.
You there? Who are you?
Is that really you?
After all these years.
Doctor.
Let me look at you. The warrior queen.
It's so good to see you again. You got old.
And bigger. And beardier. Oh, time marches on, Perry, even for a Time Lord. It really has no respect. But you filled your years with adventures and legends in the making.
You heard about that, did you?
I've heard minstrels sing songs of the warrior queen from the Scorpion Nebula to the outer rings of the Medusa Cascade. Some of them were very catchy.
Yes, Tales from the TARDIS there. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I get the sense that...
But you will.
But I will, yes. Doctor Who, it must be the gift that keeps on giving, essentially. Has there ever been a point, and I would imagine if there was, it was quite a long time ago, where you thought, that's it, Doctor Who is in the past now, I'm never going to hear any more about that. There's no chance of me playing Perry again. Or was there always a sense in your mind, even before Big Finish came along, that there might be some unfinished business here?
I suppose the day that I finished my final scene, which was in Brighton, and I got in my car and I drove away and I cried because these people were my family by now, close friends. And I thought, this door is shut.
Yeah.
I thought, this is the end of my time in Doctor Who. I had lots of lovely things to go on to, but it was like, goodbye, Doctor Who, and thank you for being so wonderful, and I'll miss you. And I could not face watching the show.
No.
I did not want to watch it, straight after I'd left, because that was just
Too
like
raw.
watching someone else eat the box of chocolates.
Yeah.
It was just not something I wanted to do.
But then along comes Big Finish.
Yes, which was not long after.
No. And then we have the new series. There's suddenly a massive new interest in the show. And of course, Perry's fate in the TV show was somewhat open-ended and has become, it's sort of spun off in different directions. There are multiple Perrys in multiple stories. We've
Yes.
seen one of them there. How do you feel to hold that sort of slightly, even though everyone else, all the other previous assistants have gone on to make return appearances and such, your character in particular has almost got this sort of pretzel of a timeline and a future.
Yes, I think I kind of liked the fact, I really liked the ending. I liked her just dying horribly because I like horrible things. I like the drama. So from a purely selfish actor's point of view, I wanted to play what was, possibly one of the most dramatic exits a companion's ever had.
Yes.
So, and I got to do the acting. It wasn't just like being shot or being blown up. I got to go through this horrible mind transplant.
And the voice,
all of
your
that,
own
change
voice.
the voice, yes, exactly.
It's a horribly unpleasant scene, and then it's all sort of...
And then I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's it. Perry's dead.
Move on.
Her shell is being used. And the poor girl who I think she had a pretty rough time.
She did,
As
yeah.
a companion.
Yeah, all the way along.
So you almost think like poor girl's out of her misery. But then, the Big Finish storylines creating these multiple Perrys, and I thought, gosh, it all made so sense. And that's the brilliance of Big Finish.
Yeah.
It's not we've just tacked this on. Everything was solidly thought through. And I thought, yes, the Time Lords would go back and try and mend this. And then it wasn't right, and then it wasn't right, and then it wasn't right. And there is something terribly tragic in that very sort of, in a very old-fashioned sense, those tragic heroines who struggle on, but nothing ever seems to go right for them.
No, it fits the sort of mentality of the Doctor Who universe at that time, that the Doctor is the last lone good guy in a universe full of very naughty people.
Yes.
So you're referring to there, I think it's Perry and the Piscon Paradox. That's
exactly,
one of my
yes.
favourite pieces of Big Finish of all time.
Yeah.
Just not only for the performance,
Yes.
but for the fantastic writing and the
Yes.
ideas behind it.
Exactly.
that-
And then in Widow's Assassin,
Yes.
where we discover how the Doctor had come back to find, and we find out what had happened to her, their relationship, which is lovely too. But what I was particularly liked is that in the Tales of the TARDIS, they insisted, it was written in the script, that I had to say I'd been back to Earth, which means I was alive,
Yeah.
and this wasn't just a mirage, and
And
this had
available for
happened.
future
I
appearances.
guess so,
Yes,
but
very
I
important.
don't like to laden that on there
No.
with expectation. I was just really glad to be doing what we did.
Yeah, it's a lovely scene. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So we're going to play you now another clip. This time we're going back to the Anderson universe for one of your favourite scenes from Thunderbirds, which I believe is also a favourite scene of quite a few people. Let's have a look.
Carry on, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Look at his balance.
I know.
It's amazing.
It's a sheer
Okay,
drop.
Gordon. Virgil, away you go. Good luck.
Thanks,
Come on,
Father.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't have time to play the full launch sequence because we'd be here for about 10 minutes. The launches of Thunderbirds 1 and 2
Yes.
often imitated, sometimes copied, but
yes.
never bettered.
Absolutely.
There's such drama, and even though you see that sequence every week pretty much in Thunderbirds, you still look forward to it.
You don't want it to be missed.
No.
And now I just admire how neither of them were vertiginous in their nature. It was just like standing there on a thing,
Yeah, over a
and
sheer
they're
drop.
just
This is
like,
fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're so confident.
I mean,
these
one-
macho pilots.
I don't know if anyone's ever tried to set up a slide like that in real life. But my goodness.
Yes, I'm not sure I would enjoy that.
No,
going down that way,
no.
particularly.
So yes, it's a combination of the vehicles, the novelty of the slides and the ramps and such, but
And the
also
fact
the
that
music.
then we get the swimming pool
The swimming
opening,
pool, yeah.
opening up, and the rock face
Yeah.
opening up. That was incredible.
The fact that it's, the mundane, this is someone's house, and then suddenly, right, there's this
Yes.
hidden facade, this other world behind it.
I sometimes talk about my Doctor Who brain,
Oh, yes?
and I think I definitely have a sort of Thunderbirds brain too, which is
That's what we like
you
to
go
hear.
somewhere and you see something and you think, that's Thunderbirds.
Yes. What's
You see
behind
it,
there?
You think, what's that?
Yeah.
And I did have an experience once in Switzerland, in the mountains. I was about 15 or 16 years old. And I was in an area, Montana Cron, and I was doing this long walk. I'd walked for hours, and there was nobody else about. And I walked around this bend, high up in the mountains, and a rock face opened.
Oh. Right.
And I thought at this point someone was probably going to shoot me.
Yes.
Because I was probably watching something that was not supposed
not
to
for
be
your eyes.
seen.
Yes.
And a rock face opened up and a plane came out. And I thought,
Wow.
it's Thunderbirds for real.
Yes.
But
My
I was in
goodness.
Switzerland and I probably wasn't meant to be walking where I
No.
was walking or see that. But I saw it for real.
Possibly-
And I had not been drinking or taking any other substances.
No, we wouldn't claim that you had. Possibly you perhaps that was too secret to have mentioned on the podcast.
Well, now it's too
hopefully
late, but it was,
Swiss authorities won't be coming
1975,
after
so I
you.
think
Yes.
they've probably moved.
They'll have finished their mission by now.
Yes.
Let's dig back into our Space 1999 lunchbox here for some more listeners' questions.
There's
See what
lots
you've got
there.
Yeah.
Right, now, what have we got? Paul Hyder.
Oh,
What is your proudest acting achievement outside the Doctor Who universe, and why?
that's quite a question.
Oh, it is.
Anything springing to mind?
Well, probably, most likely, a play that I did, which was a three-hander in which I played Zelda Fitzgerald, and the other two were F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway.
Right.
And I really wanted to play this part, and I'd met the actor who was playing F. Scott Fitzgerald at the auditions for a West End show, which I ended up doing. But he said, A, the part was already cast, and B, I was way too young, because I think I was like 23 or something at the time. So we had a cup of coffee after auditions, and I talked about my love of F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I really wanted to play this part. And what happened was, the night before the opening of the show, I got a phone call from the author to say that the actress was ill.
Oh.
Would I like to take over? 24
Wow.
hours notice.
Oh.
And I did.
How did it go?
Really well.
Brilliant.
And in fact, lots of people who I was about to work with in the West End saw that show, and it kind of put me in a really good place in their eyes. So it was a wonderful thing to happen. So I was pretty proud of attempting to learn all through that night, having kept the script, that part, and then go on and do it.
That's quite a feat to memorise an entire, presumably 2 hours with interval
Yeah, and I
script.
didn't have every single line, but when we finished, they said you were there with almost everything except for 2 lines. I was paraphrasing a lot.
Yeah.
Because what it was, I understood the story and I understood the character, and I was just going with the feeling of it, but I was pretty proud of that.
Wow. It's a shame with theatre, unfortunately, you don't have the permanent record
No,
that
I
you do
know.
with,
Gosh, what I
with
would
TV
give
shows
to
and
have
films.
that,
Yes.
to be able to show that. But
Yes. Oh, fantastic. Let's have another question for you here. We've still
Okay.
got quite a few.
Let's see, what's this?
It's another big
This
one.
is from Rebecca Andrews. You've been lucky to work on some well-known series, Doctor Who, Star Trek, etc. Is there another legendary series, or indeed Anderson series, you'd have liked to have worked on or work on? Oh, well, yes. Any of the Anderson series I would love to work on. And in terms of sci-fi, I would love to turn up in Star Trek again.
Yeah.
I'd love to... Dune. Like, turn up in movies like that, things like that. I mean, I just love sci-fi.
So that's a love, presumably, that sort of started with Anderson stuff and was kind of nurtured by Doctor Who?
Definitely.
Yeah. Any others along the way? Presumably Star Trek there, as you mentioned.
There was Star Trek. Definitely, I watched all of Star Trek, and sort of the series that were on at the time, like Survivors.
Oh, yes.
And and
Blake 7?
Yeah, Blake 7, and then there was the Day of the Triffids and all of those sort of things that were on at the same time. So all of that was just.
So you're as much a geek as the rest of us?
I'm completely a geek.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. Well, you've mentioned Star Trek there. It's time for another clip.
Ah.
Yes, this time of you, not in the TARDIS.
No.
But causing a bit of a problem on
Not
the
being
Enterprise.
so nice.
Not being so nice, no.
Why do you suppose the preservers erected a barrier around our galaxy?
Why? Hell, probably to contain us. To keep violence from spilling into the universe.
No. It was so that naturally superior individuals could be uplifted once we had the technology to venture into the stars.
You don't know what gods think.
Yes, I do.
do. That's part one of the two-part series finale of the fantastic web series Star Trek Continues. How did that come about? Because that was shot in the States, wasn't it?
It was, and Colin had already guested on the show. And Colin and I were talking about it, and I'd said, oh, I would love to be on that show. I think it's terrific. And he said, well, why don't you ask them? And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. And he said, oh, don't be ridiculous, which is a phrase Colin says to me quite often. In fact, only 2 days ago. And so he said, come along, I'm going to introduce you. And he introduced me. And, of course, I already sort of knew James anyway. But he introduced me to Vic, and he said, you know, Nicola would love to be in the show. And they were both kind of annoyed.
Really?
Because they were like, oh, we have just been desperately trying to cast a part that you would have been perfect for. And now we've cast it, and we couldn't find the right person. It took us ages. And they were like, if we'd known, you would have been perfect. So I thought, oh, well, never mind. But
And
then, of course,
you get
they
to play...
came back with this.
Yes.
I mean, beautiful writing, great script, and
a wonderful cast
a two-parter.
as well.
Great cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was director James Kerwin,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yes. Who you then went on to do during lockdown. You were doing a podcast with
Yes,
him, or
we did
a sort of
podcast
weekly
together,
web
yeah.
series. Yes. Let's have another question from the tin here. Gosh, we still have some questions. So let's take one more.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So, from Farah Shimbo.
Ooh.
If someone offered you the role of the Doctor, would you take it? Yes. Straight away. I would love that. I have a small fantasy in my head that the Doctor is about to regenerate and Perry happens to be there, and for some reason he hasn't got the strength to regenerate a whole body, so he has to use Perry's body, and the Doctor is moved into Perry's body, and that's how Perry becomes the Doctor.
She's got it.
Definitely.
BBC,
yes.
if you're listening,
Absolutely.
it's all sorted. I mean, that would be an unusual, but I think it would work, having a companion actor play the Doctor.
Well, I think it's the only
knows
way,
the character better?
isn't it?
Yeah.
If I was to be playing the Doctor, you couldn't pretend that I hadn't been Perry.
Yeah.
So it would have to be Perry's body
Yeah.
that was being used.
So would you sort of incorporate elements of Colin and Peter's personality, or would you try to find the Doctor within yourself for that?
I'd find my Doctor, which is
Yeah.
actually quite a long way from Perry,
Ah.
I think. So that would be interesting to be playing Perry and then to become the Doctor. But I think, you know, they all have their little eccentric elements, but they all have the same... There's an energy and a charisma
Yes.
and a confidence that comes with the Doctor, which they all display in very different ways. But yes.
I love the sound of this.
Yes.
Big finish. We have ideas here. Now, one of the things I'd like to come to is that you were watching Thunderbirds as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
In, I want to say, about 2015, you tweeted that you had been watching Thunderbirds with your own boys.
Yes.
Your stepsons.
Yes.
Yes. And I thought that was such an incredible thing. I take it that this wasn't like part of a sort of general cult TV indoctrination, you know, Thunderbirds, and we'll show them some other things as well. It was specifically you showed them Thunderbirds.
Yes.
Because you wanted them to see Thunderbirds?
Yes, because Thunderbirds are great.
Yes.
And they loved it, absolutely loved it, and it stands the test of time.
Yeah.
The stories are so tight. I mean, actually, now you look at how well they're written, they're very American. It totally reads as great American television.
Yeah.
Not like how slow and pedantic so much. I mean, to be fair, if you compare Doctor Who to
Yeah.
Thunderbirds of that time and the way the stories were, I mean, Thunderbirds, their stories have got far more pace
Yes.
and energy, you know.
So-
Sorry. I'm probably going to get hate mail for that one.
It's fine. So what was the sort of thinking behind introducing them to Thunderbirds? Because having met them briefly many years ago, I suspect they were just slightly too young to have been around for the last big revival on the BBC. This was before the show went up on ITVX for streaming, so presumably you were showing them DVDs.
Yes.
What was the sort of genesis of sitting them down in front of this and saying, you're going to enjoy this, hopefully?
Just fun.
Yeah.
Just the pure fun of it. I mean, you think when you've got, you know, little ones around you, you think, well, what will they enjoy? And when I think about being small And what do I enjoy? I have to think of so many of the Gerry Anderson stories, and so Thunderbirds seemed the... And, you know, it's a boy's story. I mean, you know, we have shown them Joe 90 as well, because I thought that, you know, it felt very geared to boys, Joe 90. But they love Thunderbirds. They thoroughly enjoyed it. And I found myself watching and wanting to watch the whole episode. It wasn't that thing where as a parent you sit the child down in front of it and then you go off and make dinner and do something. I just you just want to watch one and then the next and the next and the next and the next, and you don't... And those first stories are tremendous. That first season is incredible. I remember falling in love with not in that sense, although I was in love with it, but falling in love with so many of the characters. I remember the one where they're on the sort of, they're building a road.
Yep.
And my father was involved in not in building, he was in central heating and air conditioning, but it meant lots of building sites. And I visited lots of building sites as a child with with the hat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I was immediately there and I was going, and my dad watched that one with me and he was going, oh. And he was saying all these things about never cut corners, never take risks. He was doing all the dad stuff. And I was going, he's not a bad man, but, you know, it's that... You got engrossed in these characters, even the ones that weren't the regulars, the new ones. That's
part of the charm and the magic of Thunderbirds, is making you care about these people before they're thrown in danger. So when you're watching that episode, the road construction, with your own boys, you've got that memory of watching it with your father.
Yes.
That's something pretty darn special.
It's very special, especially as my father left a long, long time ago. He's been gone like over half my life. So... Yeah,
and presumably there were lots of other sort of memories like that as you were watching the show. Things were popping back up.
Oh, so many things. I mean, as I said, the wonderful thing that he would always get in the car and I would get in the back and I would say, you know, home, Parker. You know, and he'd go, yes, milady. You know, and he'd often get in the car and say, where to, milady? Oh. And I'd go, ballet, of course, Parker. You know.
Well, this is what we like to hear, that it wasn't just enjoyed when you were little, that it stayed with you. And the fact that you've introduced it to your own kids, you've kept the love of Thunderbirds going and passed it on to the next generation is something pretty special.
We also inflicted it on my mother in terms of the food. So if things would arrive that we liked, we'd say FAB, you know, you know. And so we'd use little phrases from it all. And if we were waiting for food, we go da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. Dinner! You know, it would be everywhere. It was so... And the theme tunes, you know, and I would sing the Marina one.
Oh, yes.
And the way that Troy looked at Marina...
when she's on the beach, yes.
...was the way that my dad looked at my mum.
Oh.
Because they were very in love, my parents, which was wonderful to behold.
And those are the kinds of memories that you can't relive, so it's wonderful to have those associations with these fantastic shows. That's lovely. So any current projects in the works? We do have a clip that we'd like to play from, I want to say this was it last year? A short horror film called The Wilds.
Oh, yes.
Let's have a look at that.
I find myself rather in need of a handyman. Not that you're a man, of course, darling.
Yeah, I can't. I'm swamped.
I'll pay, obviously. Double. Oh, flip it. Triple.
Maybe next month if I'm...
That won't really do.
Well, I haven't got the car.
You can get a doobie.
Uber.
But today. Has to be today. Sort of now, really.
What's the job?
And you're sure you don't want tea?
I'm good. So, what?
It's for Digby.
He's a Boston Terrier, not Cujo.
Sorry, darling, I don't know what that means.
It's Stephen King. Doesn't matter. So where is Digby?
I got out last night, and I ate him.
Oh, this is hardly staying in your room, is it, Graham?
The Wilds.
Yes.
Yes. How did this come about?
Well, I didn't have to audition. They offered me the part, and the writer had very much wanted me to play this part. And in fact, he's written the full film version.
Right.
the full feature length. And
It does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, that
it's
short.
gorgeous. It's a wonderful film, so I really hope we get to make that very soon.
And I hear you won an award for it. Is
I
that
did.
correct? Yes.
Yes, that was...
Best Supporting Actress British Horror Film Awards?
Yes.
That's
Complete
quite a
surprise.
Yeah.
Complete
Very nice
surprise.
to have.
Very nice to have.
Yes.
It's a big black skull.
Oh, very appropriate, yes. That sound that you just heard means it's time for Quickfire 5. This is where we ask you some very quick either-or questions.
Okay.
We have 5 of them, hence the name Quickfire 5. So let's go. Whose life story would you most like to star in? Stingray's Marina or Thunderbirds' Lady Penelope?
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, this is painful. Because I quite like the idea of being silent and doing it all, but she does speak. But I can't. I'm impossible.
No?
This is terrible.
Oh, no.
No.
Right, well, we're
Impossible.
bailing on that then.
Both.
Next
Both. I
question,
want
next
them
question.
both.
Okay, which of the Tracy brothers would make the best Doctor? Scott Tracy or Virgil Tracy?
Oh, the best Doctor.
Yes.
I think it's got to be Scott.
Scott
Tracy, yes.
He's the man who can get things done.
Yes.
Which Anderson character owned the cutest dog? Liz Brogan and her Labrador Sophie, or Harry Rule and his Irish wolfhound Gus? Who you saw on the intros earlier, Gus.
I love Irish wolfhounds, so I'd have to say Gus, I think.
Jamie will be very pleased with that answer.
Oh, good. Glad to please Jamie.
Who would you most like to explore the universe with?
Ooh.
The warrior King Yrcanos, as played by Brian Blessed, or the Alteres chief scientist, Dr. Tom Bowen from the Anderson pilot The Day After Tomorrow, as played by Brian Blessed? So there's no good answer.
I think I've already exhausted Yrcanos.
Yes.
I think I would have to go with the Professor.
Is slightly quieter,
Yes,
trip
I
on the
think so.
Alteres.
Might be
Okay.
kinder on the eardrums.
Yes. Finally, you've been asked to join the ranks of Spectrum, and you can choose your colour codename from the Dulux colour paint range. So, are you Lieutenant Lagoon Falls or Captain Ruby Starlet?
Oh, Ruby Starlet.
Ruby, I thought you might be a Starlet, yes.
You know, Perry's a new colour, though.
Is
There's
it?
a Perry Panettone colour,
Oh.
which is a sort of purple lilac.
Okay, so...
Came out last year, I think.
Captain Perry...
Yes.
Yes? You're happy with
I
that?
did, yes.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
does
work.
it? Well, on that note, that brings us to the end of our interview with the one and only Nicola Bryant.
Thank you. Thank you very much.